Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Women on Top. Today, I have sitting with me an incredible woman. I have the beautiful honor of introducing Katya Libin, who was the co-founder of HeyMama, where she really spearheaded the growth of the company and led the mission of advancing moms in the workforce. And now she is the founder of Jadeva, where she has raised millions in funding and has led nationally recognized organizations, all while guiding a new generation of leaders. And she's really doing this by empowering women to move from burnout to hustle and really step into their feminine, soul-centered approach to leadership, success, and community. So you can imagine why I invited her onto the Women on Top, because she is the epitome of a woman on top. So welcome to the show today, Katya. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Valerie. I need to have your intros around more often because that made me sound so good.
It's so easy to do when you're such a dynamic force of a woman. So I feel like I could have gone on even longer. I'm just really grateful to spend time here together today. And I would like to start, I know HeyMama was a big part of your journey. And so I would like to kind of look back in time at that moment when you were with that organization. And what are some of those moments that really stood out for you that kind of helped define you as a leader and as a woman?
Such a great question. It's interesting because the first moment that comes up is actually one of my least proud moments in the business, but it was such a big turning point for me. So I'll share about it because it really sums up the level of pressure and intensity that I put myself through and that I felt I experienced building that business. Just for context, started HeyMama with a dear friend, really back of the napkin, like moms need community, moms need support. This is crazy. I'm a mom. Where are all of the other, ambitious mothers that are also craving to be successful at raising a family and growing a really enriching, prosperous career? And when we couldn't find any, that's when we decided to build HeyMama, and it really struck a chord. And so me as a first-time founder, starting to build this momentum and see what started as an idea now with 100 members, 200, 500, 1,000, thousands of members, it felt like the pressure was on, at least for me at the time. And so this moment was actually mortifying, but I will share it for the benefit of all of us. Yeah, we had actually just closed a big partnership with J. Crew. And so we had done a lot of brand partnerships, worked with companies like Lincoln and Marc Jacobs and many others that had wanted to partner with HeyMama to reach our community and who believed in our mission. And we had closed this partnership with J. Crew. And I remember us at our co-working space, and we had this amazing employee, won't name her name out of confidentiality, amazing employee that had just worked so hard all the time. And poor thing just got like totally the worst side of me that day because she had made a mistake. And we had an event coming up like 4 days from then that never got sent out to anyone.
Oh,
And I swear it was like a big partnership too, also that was spearheaded by a friend of mine, who got us in the door and made it happen. And I just lost it. I yelled. I was shocked. I was not in my divine feminine leadership. I was in my scared little girl is going to act out leadership. And, the whole office could hear, it was so mortifying. And I just remember sinking in my chair with like so much shame, but also so much frustration because I knew there was nothing to be done at that time other than to problem solve and to figure it out. But because I had lost that control of my emotions and and just express that anger, but maybe not in the most healthy way. It was probably quite defeating to this amazing woman. And I just always thought back to that moment as I then, became a conscious leadership coach and talked to women about how to really navigate emotions while building a company. This moment felt really critical.
Mm, yeah, that's such a good story to kind of anchor into as to how you shifted some of that. So what were some of the steps forward from there? Because I'm sure everyone listening is like, oh gosh, I've had a moment, whether it's like with my kids or at the office or whatever. What are some of the shifts that you made to really change and to start to embody more of your feminine leadership?
Yeah. I remember even at that company, we started working with coaches, and it's almost like I understood it, but I wasn't in the space to embody it. They're like, Katya, we need you to be like less intense. And I'm like, okay,
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to try to be less intense. And then, like, meanwhile, I'd get in the meetings and like everyone would be stressed out, because I'm terrible at hiding my feelings. I'm just not a great liar. So it's like what you see is what you get. And, um, and so I found that because so much weight and pressure, I was the CEO, and this was the back at the time where I was like, of course I'm going to be the CEO. I was made for this job. Come to find out I was not made for that job. That is not the job I like or want. Thank God I'm not the CEO of my current company. I'm really great at co-founding and and building movements and partnerships and community and being anchored in this feminine frequency. Um, Sometimes can feel for me at odds with being the person that has to be super meticulous about every single detail. And I'll get into that later about like really how to build the right support system around you. But I loop back around to the fact that even though I started to take steps, like I was meditating every day and I was trying to be in my zen and I was taking accountability, I still felt that my nervous system response was fear and stress and anxiety. And so it didn't quite translate into the leadership that I wanted in that business. And I had to really like step away from that business and rebuild from scratch, like rebuild my nervous system and my capacity
Mm.
and my outlook and orientation on work, period, and worthiness to then start to learn how to master it and then teach it.
Ugh, it's so hard to do that.
Yeah,
So I feel like I'm in a season of that. I actually was part of a company-wide layoff recently. And so, which was something I kind of knew was coming. And in a way, almost felt like I manifested it, like, okay, I've been here for so long and I just know I'm ready. And then you are without the company. It's like, oh, who am I now without the title and without the communities I was serving and without the money, all of those stories that come into play. So what was what was the thing that got you through some of that? Like, what were you able to discover from that process? And was some of that discovery what shaped your company now with Jadeva?
definitely. Yeah, like at first when I stepped away from the business, I thought it was going to be super hard because I'd given everything to it, more than it had asked me for. You know what I mean? I thought that because I was the founder and the CEO, that my whole life had to be around the business outside of my daughter. And I, was really good at being very devoted to her. But outside of that, I was like, it stops with me, it starts with me, kind of like a very I centered, like I have to figure this out and it's my responsibility and I need to take care of everyone, kind of martyr based leadership. Maybe we've experienced it or felt it. Um, but then within like 2 weeks, I had started to feel this like incredible joy again. Like so much joy. I was like, wow, look how happy I can be when like joy and bliss and pleasure. And like my little girl came back and I'm like a very playful, silly, quirky person. And it just felt like for that first business, it just like sort of squeezed all of that out. And I became like serious, intense, controlling Katya because I didn't have that spaciousness. I couldn't hold that duality then.
Mm.
I just almost, or like I didn't value it or create enough space for for that little girl to come through. So the like intense mom, the one that's like always telling you to clean your room and how you can do it better.
Yeah.
Oh, so obnoxious. I like cringe when I think back. I like literally need to write an apology letter to like everyone that worked for me. Um, and also I had some magical parts too. Like I grew something out of nothing and it was exciting and inspiring. But the the first few weeks after, I felt shocked at how much easier it was to start fresh than I thought,
Mm.
how freeing it felt to let go of a former identity and get to go to that cycle of like death and rebirth, and how many more parts of my authentic self were coming online. And through that, I started to get obsessed with like, well, how could a woman that was living in her purpose still be such a, like not really hit the mark on the leadership side and still have so much um, masculine energy in a very feminine business.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of women feel this, like coaches, and this happens all the time with the coaches, especially because they're like, I'm teaching people how to do X, but in my personal life, I feel like I'm good at teaching it, but they're not always good at embodying it for them and mirroring the values that they actually teach in their own lives, which can lead us to feel like out of integrity.
Mm.
And that's what I felt like because I was talking about building this like really supportive community for moms where we take care of moms. And then my own employees are like, dear Lord, I'm so tired, and I'm like, we cannot fail. So that's not an integrity. And as a coach, I think about that story often and talk about that story often with my clients to make it relatable that it is so normal sometimes for us to give medicine, but not take it for ourselves.
Mm. That's such a good lesson. And I want to go back to something you said about duality. Like, when you were at the other in your other business, you didn't feel like you had the capacity to like have both the feminine energy and
Yeah.
lead. And I'm wondering, do you think that that comes from the environment or does it come from the individual or both? Because I've sometimes wondered, is this about the workplace itself and we need to leave, or is it about me and I got to look in the mirror, or is there something in between?
It really wasn't my workplace because they were all taking my lead. You know what I'm saying? They were ready to they were ready to follow the tone that I was setting.
Mm.
And my setting of the tone was that I will be working at all hours of the day so that I can keep up with what we're doing. And we just took on so much. And then once the beast was underway, it needed to get fed. So you start to like take on more projects and more clients, and then you need to fulfill that work and you need to fulfill the big things you've dreamed up. And so it sort of felt like there was no way out for me but to keep working and hustling to support all of the things that were already established. There were a couple of people though that at some point I think did not support me fully. Like I did feel that there was like almost a desire to like not undermine me, but really I think maybe some resentment of like, why is it her, not me? Or like, I'm older than her. And look at her, she's like 31 and I have to listen to what she tells me to do. And I know X, Y, and Z, but she's my boss. I kind of felt like there was definitely some culture things that became a challenge. But ultimately, I still take responsibility for that because as a leader, it is your job to set the culture of your company and to make sure that you're first and foremost living by those values yourself. Um, and yeah, setting the tone. So
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question. I
Yeah.
feel like you had a secondary part, but
No, I think that that's so self-aware, just to be taking that accountability as the leader, you are the
yeah,
one setting this. Was the goal with Hey Mama always to get acquired? Was that like the big dream?
no,
Okay.
no, not at all. I was like, I'm going to be building this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I think the goal of Hey Mama was to build a national movement, which we did, build a really thriving ecosystem for moms in business, And then, yeah, at some point, if there was a great acquisition, I think we were open to that, but it wasn't like it was built to exit. I think with most really community experiences, they're not built that way. They're built to serve, and exits that come along the way can happen. Yeah, and I'm so proud of what we did and the impact that that company made. And I feel like everything I learned there, I've been able to take into Jadeva and get to build another movement for women. This time I have so much more knowledge and awareness. So I'm able, I think, to meet the assignment with a lot more, I'm going to use the word sovereignty, which, if I'd never heard that word before, I'd be like, what does that even mean? So I'm happy to explain that. But with a lot more sovereignty of who I am and what I am here to do and what I'm also here not to do and not to give of myself in the spirit of completing the assignment.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Jadeva. What, how did this come to be? You were talking about how you were experiencing so much joy and fulfillment after, the other company, you would let go of that. Where was the idea for Jadeva? How was this brought to life? And I also want to make sure we touch on, for the listeners who are like building community, building businesses, what steps you've taken, like tactical wisdom you can give us
Yeah.
about how to do that.
Well,
That's a
I'm going
lot
to
in
say
one
something
question.
kind of unconventional.
Yeah.
So, just caveat that this is just what's worked
Yeah.
for me, and that please do your own due diligence. Talk to your chat GTP, talk to who you need to make sure this works for you. But personally speaking, I'll answer your second question first. I need to build the plane as I'm flying it for it to work. There are people out there that are like, I'm going to create this program. I'm going to perfect it. I'm going to refine it, perfect it, put it through the grinder again, perfect it again, launch it, test, optimize, and then it will be ready. And I'm not one of those people. I'm like, I need to get live humans in this to learn with them. So I've always been a big fan of like an MVP, of starting something quickly to really understand the market that you're serving and trying to get real live people, early adopters in there at a price point that's reflective of this being an early, like first ones in kind of thing, first guinea pigs in. And we've had so many members that have been like, we know we were your guinea pigs in the beginning.
Great.
Like they've told me that. They're like, I really admire how you're just able to go for it. And I'm like, yes, because candidly, I probably wouldn't have started. But look, in 20 months later, we have so much momentum and so much clarity and so many people that we've been able to serve. But it was not through perfection. I'd say it was through devotion, service, heart, and just commitment to getting better and better and improvising at each step. And so for a community, I would say you're going to, you want to start somewhere, but start. Don't sleep on your community. Don't wait and think you're just going to start it in 6 months when you have everything perfect. Like really get it going. And then allow those early people to help shape it with you. So that way you're not building something in a silo that you think people want, but you're allowing your first people in your community to really shape the culture and feel really committed to the vision for the future. So that's my tactical advice.
I love that. And where do you find community? Because I think that's the other piece is people are like, yeah, I post on social media, but that community-based businesses can be really challenging, especially from what I've
Yeah.
heard. So how do you do this thing?
Tell me about it. So for us, when we started, we actually had a different name.
Hmm.
It was called Divine Feminine Leader for like the first 8 months. And then we went to go trademark it, and there was a Divine Feminine Leaders in Vermont. So lesson number 5 of business is make sure that your company name can be trademarked if you want to build something long term. So it was interesting because we had our vision was to build this in chapters of 64 women at a time. So the first 64 members were really the hardest part because I had to have 150 conversations really to get to 64 women that were like, yes, Katya, I'm signing on for this thing that's never existed before. And yes, I would love to, invest my time, energy, money into this because I believe in the vision of what divine feminine leadership can create. That process was very much like me reaching out to my network, getting on calls, sharing the vision, sharing my story, and getting people to just say, yes, I'm in, or come back to me later, or no, I'm not interested. Um, Very time consuming, but I got to get the most incredible women in the door for the first cohort, which, and some of those women are still with us now as we're in our second year that have, stayed with us and really see what we're building. Social media is fantastic because you never know who's watching. Like just last night, I was going to buy a rug and it was 8:30 at night and on Facebook Marketplace. I'm kind of like a Facebook Marketplace addict. I don't know if anyone else is been home or furnishing lately, but this is the place to do it. And they're like, "We follow you on Instagram. We'll open up the store. Come on in." It's 8:30 at night in the suburbs. No one's
My God.
no one's opening up their store at nighttime and they're like, "We follow you. We would love for you to get our rugs." And I was like, "Oh my God, never know." And maybe that woman that has the rug company one day ends up wanting to join this community because she's seen me over years be committed to my work, staying the course. And I would have no idea. You have no idea who's watching right now that you can make an impact on. But sometimes the actual conversion of it, like there's so many entrepreneurs that don't have 20 people in their DMs being like, where can I buy? And then you're like, am I doing it wrong? Everyone else must be flooded with people that are just ready to pay. And I got to tell you, even with a great following and a great reputation, still, I feel like it takes a different dance to get people to really invest thousands of dollars into themselves. Um, that, that that you have to really believe in it fully.
So that takes me to what are you building? Tell us what Jadeva is, and let's go back to how did this come to be? What was the initial beginning of it?
Yes. Okay. So the initial idea was how could we build the first ever global community bridging spirituality and business and create a place where we have all of these women that have been coming into their spiritual awakenings. They're now connecting with the fact that they are very powerful, more than they ever thought possible. They're connecting back with their body and their soul. And they have maybe felt like, holy cow, like I'm here for a purpose. This is huge. Does anyone else feel this? Like I'm here for a big purpose. Like what if there's a really important reason that I've come into this human body in this lifetime and it's to do X. And once that feeling comes in, it's so powerful. But then if you don't have the right community to actualize on this awakened conscious state, it can feel really defeating and deflating and almost like you're trying to explain to people that you're like, you know, an infinite being of possibility. And they're like, what are you talking about? You don't know this or you don't know that, or all the roadblocks will come in. So in hindsight, we thought we need a sisterhood of women that can um, do a few things together. The problems that we found were women were growing out of their friendships. They had amazing friends, women they love. Like they'll do a trip a year, like they'll come over on holidays, but they might not be calling them after their meditation to be like, I just had the craziest download. I have to tell you about it, or whatever it may be. That they found it harder as you're getting older to make really meaningful friendships beyond just knowing someone on social or seeing them at a party. And the craving for deeper sisterhood for women, it's a woman's health thing, to be honest. Like our health improves when we have incredible female friendships. And Valerie, you strike me as someone that must have some amazing female friendships around you. You're just like, just like a beam of sunshine and love. And I'd just totally be your friend if we lived in the same area.
You totally.
Yeah, they're like lining up for. But yeah, you don't even just grow out of your friendships, but you crave to be around energy that is expansive for you and where you are. women that have created things in their lives where you could learn from their lived experience and their business experience, and that kind of stretch and challenge you in a good way. So that was the first problem, that we wanted to curate women from around the world that had achieved really great things professionally and were super heart-centered goddesses, really, that were here to be of service to the planet and to other women and to just they're abundant, and they're not competitive. They're not going to talk behind your back. They're not going to try to, tear you down. Like the opposite. They just want to really, really build you up. So that was one problem that we felt like we could really solve. And the second problem was that we felt there were a lot of programs that were virtual only, but there was a lot of challenge in women actually building in real life community with like a coven of women. And we looked around and there was no spiritual business community. It was either like you went to your woo woo circle and did your sound healing, or you went to your business networking group, but it wasn't like you had this one hive of humans that you could come back to build and grow together. So we wanted to create something that was virtual and in person, a hybrid experience. And the third was we had just learned so much building businesses. My co-founder built a business that got acquired. So did I. We've seen so much. And we just saw that for women to build their soul-led business, they needed better training and better spaces to integrate what they're learning into action. So it wasn't just another class that's sitting there. It's actually like you're a part of a living, breathing ecosystem where you could learn, integrate, and embody the teachings. So you could actually see the growth. So that's really what we're doing. We have it's a membership model. So we do have two pathways for women that can join. Ignite and Impact are the names of our two pathways. And it's been really exciting to see how much that's resonated with women, both the naming of this program and what's included and how it feels like it's striking a chord or giving them something that they're not getting from many, many, many other options out there for women's communities. And like more community, the better. But there's just a lot of women's communities out there. So we've had to really get specific so that way we could also stand out and understand we're going into quite a saturated market, but with a very different offer.
Yeah. I, I could say so much. There is such a beauty to bringing both, like you were talking about, because I've seen this myself too. There's either the business community where you're like taking on the world, we're going to dominate, and you have to use all the corporate lingo, or there's the healing space and the healing circles. And that's very wonderful too. But there isn't this like nice marry up where you have people who are in both and bringing both together. And then the other piece that you said about friendships, like I mean, yes, I love connecting with people, obviously, but it's taken me a while to figure out how to cultivate good female friendships. And it wasn't until I was like in my older, whatever, 20s, 30s before I was like, gosh, I need to figure this thing out because I don't really have anybody. So I resonate with so much of that. And coming from the learning and development space too, the experiential learning is huge. And I feel like you're on the cusp of something because with everything that's AI generated, those in-person experiences and being able to practice what people are learning is so different, is the differentiator. So I love the mission. You mentioned that, you help people discover their purpose and like their impact. What do you think your purpose is?
Ooh. My purpose is to help women connect to their pleasure, power, and purpose so that they can live the life of their dreams.
Wow. That's a huge purpose. Did you feel that, like, have you known that this whole time, or has that become more clear to you, as you've built Jadeva? And how has that come into play?
Yeah. So with HeyMama, my purpose was to help moms feel longing and like help with that wholeness where they just could wrap around that they're not failing actually, like they are raising the next generation and they are also deeply investing in themselves and just like helping moms feel like that village was really meaningful for me through Hey Mama. And with Jadeva, I'm doing something similar where I'm looking at like the ancient priestesses in ancient Egypt, which, by the way, we're doing a retreat to Egypt this November for 20 women. We're taking 20 magical goddesses to Egypt. So we have 3 spots left. Just putting it out there. If anyone listening to this is like, oh my God, I have been summoned to Egypt, this is just the most amazing way to go. We're seeing these temples privately and really tapping into these ancient ways. And I'm fascinated by ancient civilizations because we see how much these priestesses were connected to the cosmos and to the land and to ritual and to being the healers of their communities. And they were also very connected to their sisterhood. And that art of sistering, of circling, it's kind of been lost for so long because we need spaces that create the invitation for us to connect to that soul voice, but with other women next to us. It's really like if you've ever been to a full moon circle, you know that feeling. Or you sit down and you're like, wow, this just feels different. I have a moment here to really connect to the truest part of what's trying to be expressed because I feel safe. And this is something I've actually done probably before in previous lifetimes, and I'm just now coming back to it. I really am fascinated by that, like women circling. So, how the power of a circle is like transformative for us because that is how humans survived, is through storytelling. It's like the only thing that makes us different than other animals in the animal kingdom is storytelling. So we need spaces like that where we could sit and not to be fixing each other, but to give women a space to speak their truth, speak their story, find their voice, articulate what's really happening. Not the like, yeah, I'm good, things are fine, like really articulating that. So to answer your question, did I always know this was going to be my purpose? I feel like there have been parts on the way that have come in strong, like the pleasure piece. I didn't know 10 years ago that that would be such a big part of my message. And now that I talk about pleasure and I work with women around this topic and I integrate, pleasure and power and purpose as like, and presence. And then now I'm thinking about profit. I'm like, okay, it's like the 5 Ps, it's pleasure, purpose, power, profit, and presence. If you're not building a profitable business, you're just like working to pay everyone else. I see it all the time with entrepreneurs where they build a good business, but it's not profitable because they don't know how to manage the expenses of what's going in and what's going out. And then they end up not really walking away with that much, but they have a business, but it's not like they're feeling that successful because it's not a very profitable business. Presence is obviously a huge problem because we're so connected to our phones, and presence is such a superpower when you can master that. And yeah, women are just here to receive and to experience pleasure in way more of a way that's been taught or socially acceptable. It is just a shame how much we've been disconnected or taught not to be in this energy because we don't know where it's safe to actually be I feel like the goddess that we were born to be.
Yeah.
So,
there's so much there. And it's really wonderful to hear you speak because again, there's few people that I've spoken to who have such business savvy and such spirituality and are able to combine those worlds. And it's really refreshing. And I think it is such a differentiator of your business. So I'm so grateful that there's women like you who are going first and creating this type of experience. Was when you sat down and were like, gosh, this is what it is, and you have a co-founder, I think, right? Did you was this all in both of your minds? How did you find the right co-founder? Again, I think for women out there who are like, oh, I think I need a partner. Like sometimes I think, gosh, I could do really well, but I feel like I need a partner. I need a spiritual running buddy. What's that process like?
yes. I am so eternally grateful for my co-founder, Olivia. We met because I was her coach. She hired me. One of our other members is also a client of mine. I still
Oh my
take
gosh.
on one-to-one clients. I do about 3 mentorships a quarter where I'll work with women to really be by their side to help them do this, because it is support feels so good, for lack of a better term. And Olivia came into my life, and we got on the call, and I'd say by minute 27 of the call, she was like, "Where do I wire you the money?" And I'm like, wow, this feels great. Like, she is so in. Like, we had such great chemistry. Her whole body was activated. She was like, I've never felt this in my body before. She's like, I feel like I'm having an outer body experience talking to you. And I'm like, just wait, baby. It's going to get so good. We're going to do such great work together. And by the end of our coaching container, I was like, hey, I have this, this fun vision I've been working on. And I presented it to her. And she had worked at Cornell, and helped scale their online business from like 500,000 to 8 million a month. She was really good with online business. She had built her own company and acquired it in the tech field. And I think she's like Cleopatra reincarnated. She's so stunning, so sensual, so magical. But when I got to her, she had no idea about a lot of her spiritual sides. She just knew she was kind of witchy, but like held it down. And she was an amazing businesswoman. I could tell that there was so much of her that was never able to fully be expressed because of the environments that she was in. So as she was getting to know this vision, she was going through a pretty transformational experience with her own self-realization. And that led her to be like, yes, I will be your co-founder and be you know, all the other parts that I don't have the strength in doing, she's really amazing at. So her and I, Jadeva, the name Jadeva came from us connecting to our higher selves, and we actually ended up naming them. So we're in this deep meditation, and my higher self, her name is Jade. And Olivia's higher self, her name is Ava. And we're like, Jade, Ava, Jade, Ava. They're sitting in like, Capri, and they're talking. And we're like, wait, it's Jadeva. Because Jadeva represents two sisters, that balance of the masculine and the feminine coming together, that are choosing to create and build and invest in one another. And then we had the chills. We're like, this is the most amazing name. I've never heard of it. Trademarks, all available. No one's come up with it. We're like, go, go, go. We're like, let's do some research and figure out what this means. We start doing the research, and turns out that Jah means God in Hebrew, and Deva means divine being in Sanskrit. Hello. What? Universe? Like, I can't even.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the most amazing name. This is the most amazing co-founder. She balances me out. And I started to think about, well, how can Judeva support women in finding their co-founders? Because this is important. We can't do it all alone. And it's exhausting when you're not playing to your strengths. It's going to take you 10 times longer to do something. And you don't, like, who even wants to build anything by themselves? Let's get real. I mean, women thrive off oxytocin. We are co-creative beings. So we've had many women meet their business partners, best friends through Jadeva, and feel like this is definitely a place where you could do that. If you are looking for a co-founder and you have this inclination that you're meant to build this with someone, I would start by every morning just starting to visualize what it feels like when that person comes into your field, and just pray and just being like, thank you. Thank you for bringing me the most incredible human to build this vision with. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As if it's already here. Do it in the shower. Do it if you do morning prayers or evening prayers, and just watch and see who the miracles are that come into your life.
Mm, that is, gosh, just hearing this story is so moving. And just you can feel that like electric energy as you came together with this most perfect divine person for you. And I love that practice. I think that's so simple, but yet we forget like just to sit there and let it come through.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that's such a good takeaway for anybody who is looking for that person, or even just something in your life that you feel like, you're waiting for. That I think that's a great
Yeah.
practice. I could talk to you for days. I feel like I wish you just lived down the street. We were having lunch right now, but it's okay. So as we close out this podcast, I have a closing tradition where I ask my guest to leave a quote or reflection, just something for the next guest, not knowing who it is. So I'd like to read what my last guest shared, and then I'd like to give you the opportunity to do the same. Now, sometimes people get a little twitchy about this. It doesn't have to be a perfect quote. It can just be something that you feel called to share with the next guest. So I just want to preface it with that. Okay. So my last guest she said, this quote is from George Adair, and it is that everything you ever wanted lives on the other side of fear. And she said, in saying that, I love for your next guest to think about what makes them fearful, what puts them in that zone of discomfort, and what would they do if they could step into that place. So I think that's
wow.
That's an interesting reflection to leave you on as you're building and growing and scaling such a powerful movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious what might be coming to you that you would like to leave for my next guest.
What's coming to me is this line that I said one time that came through during a ceremony. And I kept on going around to everyone and saying it. And it's really stayed with me. And it's really quite simple. And it's just that you are infinite. You are infinite. And I really believe that we have an infinite access of wisdom, power, joy, pleasure, possibility within us. And that it's only when we understand that we are infinite, there's no limit to what we can create and what we can be and design for ourselves, that we are able to then unlock that within other people. And so the moment you feel that freedom within yourself, the moment you realize that, wow, I'm even more powerful and divine than I ever thought possible, that is when you want to just spill that over and help light up that spark in someone else so they can also feel that, and that together you can create, something extraordinary.
Ugh. You say that, and I'm sitting here feeling so moved and grateful from this conversation and feeling like you are lighting the spark in so many. And I am just grateful. I think that there are women like you who are brave enough, or who are just so called and so led and so embodied in who they are, that they are letting other women believe in themselves again in a whole new way. And that just shifts the energy of the world. So this has been so powerful. You are just exceptional. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
I have loved this conversation, and I appreciate what you're doing so much.
thank you so much, Valerie. More to come.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. There is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.